So there's the sort of second step. I also need to do here, the top of the M. So I had already started to darken that off. So continue to sort of create that block. Remember, you want the angle to be the same on this and this, on every single sort of letter that you're working on. So sort of change it if you need to as you go. And because this top of the M is sort of closer to there, it will be darker here than it is down here. So I'm just gonna gradually lighten it off. So remember, although I'm not doing it all the time because I'm doing this, trying to do this quickly, I'm gonna be toning in both directions all the time to get rid of any sort of lines that I'm creating when you know, I'm overlapping my tone. All right, so got that. The next thing is to just create that sort of lighter tone down here on the back of the mountain. All right, and there's one final trick that we can use to sort of make that pop out even more, but I'm just gonna darken it off slightly. And then I'll show you what I'm going to do next. Now that's kind of it, basically. So you can see I've got my different sections. I've put in the shades that go back. So I've got a couple of different shades happening. It's probably not as refined as I would like it to be, but it's almost there. So here's where you can use your kneadable eraser and your hard eraser, and we're just trying to get some highlights into there. So the kneadable eraser you use for softer, your softer highlights, and then you can use the harder eraser to produce much stronger lines. So I might just move this around a little bit. So we really want this highlight to have that sort of L shape that you see up here. So if you can see that. So we want to replicate that L shape that's there in our highlight down here. So I'm going to go with the hard eraser first. So in between the M and the O, I'm just going to rub back. Try not to use your finger. Just blow on it to get rid of the eraser that comes off. And then just sort of rub back. So I've just started, okay? Then I'm gonna come back into here and I'm gonna get rid of, now I've got a nice sharp point on the end of my rubber. You can also, as you go, clean it off. All right, blow on it to get rid of your rub marks. All right, so I've got my 3 highlights under there. I don't really use the eraser for much more. I might sort of come back here and just sort of try and put in a mark that'll make this side of the M pop out a little bit more. And maybe up here as well. And it's just to sort of help it to pop out from the side of the mountain. And there's one more place that I will probably sort of rub away in a V, just where it goes off. Okay, so starts of it. Now I can use my soft eraser just to soften them off a little bit. So I'm going to tease it into the shape, knead it in my hand for a bit so the warmth from my hand softens the actual eraser itself. you make it into a shape that will work, and then just go back over it and just soften all your edges. All right, so you can press a little bit harder if you want to. Knead it back in if you want to get a clean sort of area, and keep going. So just put little tiny marks in, and they will add more interest and reflection and that sort of thing into your shadows. So you're kind of smudging with the rubber in part, but it also really helps to make things more realistic. So you can really thin out the rubber to get it up into sort of corners. And then I might, for a final go over, I might come back with my HB pencil and just sort of put a few marks back in. I might also, I've got a few lines in my highlight from the hard rubber, so I might in fact sort of just go back in and use my finger to sort of try and get rid of those. I can come back in with my kneadable eraser, and then I'm just going to fix all the edges of these. So make sure they sort of line up with what's there. So lastly, I've just finished the edge of the bottom of my mountain. I haven't made it a straight line, I've sort of made it irregular. I'm using my kneadable eraser again just to sort of blend it into the background. I've come back over it with a HB, and I'm just sort of carefully going over some areas, putting some highlights in, lightening it up, remembering this side of my mountain is darker, so I'm gonna add some extra tone to that as well, but you can do that. I just wanted to explain, when you've got the two letters that sit next to each other, make sure the shape of your letter follows, the shape of your shadow follows the shape of your letter. So the curve of the O, I've also curved that shadow in there and then put a straight line for the bottom of it. So in between these two, we've got this sort of differently shaped highlight here that then sort of just ends up, you know, lightening as it heads towards the bottom of the mountain. If you really wanted to, you could put in a straight line going to your vanishing point, but I'm not going to worry about it. And I'm just going to work on these areas a little bit to add some more tone and texture in there. Trying to soften off and then darkening off this side also. So don't forget, you want it to look like it's going around the corner. I'm not going to sort of put a line in there, but I am going to darken it off a little bit. So there's some difference. And then I'm going to keep going. I've just sort of put in a highlight between the O and the R, but I need to remember to do that shadow, then straighten the lines first, put in my shadow going in that direction, straighten off the lines, and then put my highlight in. So hopefully that should be enough info. If not, come and see me in the class. I'll finish off the ribbon and put that onto YouTube as well. So check the next video.